It's the Premium Pete Show.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Premium Pete Show. Finally getting a chance to sit down here with the one and only, okay? And I got to say it, sometimes people don't deserve it, okay? But I won't say that they don't deserve it. The legendary Stretch Armstrong, DJ Stretch Armstrong. I mean, there's just multiple things we could call you. A world traveler, right? A DJ, club DJ. But more importantly, I will say, and we'll let you say some things about you, but I'll say you're a game changer.
Oh, I thank you.
First and
I haven't
foremost,
heard that one yet.
No, definitely a game changer because you think about it, it's like when you think about Stretch and Bobbito and you think about, and we'll get to all those things, but when you think about the show that you guys were doing and the artist that had a platform, I mean, some of the most favorite artists of the world today. I mean, and I don't think there's anyone you can name that didn't come up to the radio station when you were doing Stretch and Bob. I mean, it's just, you know.
Well, the show was in the 90s, so of course you're talking about artists that popped off in the 90s.
Sure.
There are a lot of 80s legends that came through the show, but many that didn't. They didn't have to, but it was cool when guys like G-Rap
Sure.
and Craig G and Cool Keith and Ultra would come by the show, even though in the case of some of them, they didn't really have to. Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest.
Wu-Tang.
Well, no,
Well,
Wu-Tang popped off in the 90s, so they needed to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you think about it and you look back on that shit, do you ever say like, holy shit, we had some memorable moments, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't say holy shit anymore because, but I think when Bob and I made the documentary about our show. For those that don't know, and there still are people that don't know. I'll bump into people in the street and I'll be like, you know about our movie? They're like, nah, what's that? You know about our podcast? Nah, what's that? The film is Stretch and Bobbito, Radio That Changed Lives. It came out in 2016. It's actually still on...
It's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix and Showtime still. Doing that film and sort of revisiting our history was quite illuminating, and at times I was able to sort of step out of that familiar space and look at it as an outsider and be like, damn, that's crazy.
Who the hell was keeping footage at that time? Were you smart enough to know to take pics?
I had
videos.
I had a cousin that would come up with a little camcorder. I had a friend I went to Columbia with, my friend John Limpert. He would come up with one of those big super SVHS camcorders. Things are like like cinder blocks on your shoulder.
Yeah, they put your shoulder to
although his footage was lost, unfortunately, because he had crazy footage. Various aspiring filmmakers and videographers would come up and shoot. And we were lucky enough to get our hands on the footage. In some cases, we found some footage during the making of the film that we had never seen before, photographs as well. There's some incredible color slides of there's DMX in 1990, Mobb Deep as Poetical Prophets as teenagers. They're like 15 years old, 14. They look like babies. It's crazy. Busta with he's twisting his hair to grow dreads. Sure. 1-inch twisties. Who else? Akinelli with Nas. Just a lot of amazing footage was unearthed in the making of the film.
So the documentary is still available on Netflix, and also the podcast for people who don't know.
Right. So we screened Stretch and Bobbito, Radio That Changed Lives for NPR in DC at their headquarters, and we did a Q&A, which was it was one of those great Q&As where Bob and I were really funny and informative and really engaged with the crowd. And after that Q&A, NPR brass thought that we'd be a good fit for the NPR ecosystem and the things they're trying to do. They're trying to diversify their listenership, get a younger viewership, listenership as well. And after our first season, we learned that that our show, it's a podcast called What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito, is the most diverse show in the NPR ecosystem.
Really?
The most.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
FM and podcast.
so you're doing seasons, right? You're on season 2.
That's right.
And who's some of the guests you had on season 1?
Season 1, we had Stevie Wonder. We had
Look at this shit.
Regina King.
Talk about it.
Mahershala Ali, Chance the Rapper, Run the Jewels. We had this guy Dave Chappelle.
Forget about it. Actually, let me stop you for a second.
Rosie Perez, Hayes, Mr. Cartoon, Hill Harper.
God, do you need to go any further? I need to stop you. You know why?
Linda Sarsour. Yeah.
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. I mean,
Like, talk to me about that. Like, have you ever met Stevie before that?
No, I hadn't. Bob had, because Bob, he used to do this party.
Sure.
Wonderful with Spinna. Spinna still does it.
How's Spinna feeling, by the way?
Great.
Okay.
I saw Spinna last week out in Bed-Stuy. He was doing the Michael Jackson tribute with Spike Lee.
It's okay, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder was. I mean, it's funny. I didn't really talk that much in the Stevie Wonder episode because I kind of wanted to give Bob that full lane because that's his guy, right?
Sure.
So I was like, what would be the equivalent? Like, if Bob and I were like sitting with like Joe Strummer from the Clash,
Sure.
I'd be like, Bob, I got this.
Yeah. Come in and out when I'm tired.
But it was amazing. But he wasn't in the studio with us. He was actually in his studio in LA, but he had his electric piano, which was connected to the board. So he was, we were interviewing him, he was playing songs and singing to us. It was pretty amazing. I would suggest to your listeners that they listen to that episode because it's a really intimate interview with Stevie Wonder, and Spinna was there as well. He was in the studio with us, and I think it's a unique episode because Spinna is very close to Stevie and his family. Bob is so knowledgeable about Stevie Wonder, so this is a really interesting perspective from two guys that know Stevie well, and I think that kind of led to an interview that is, I think, pretty unique.
Would you first and foremost call yourself a DJ?
Right. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's funny you bring up Spinner and DJ Spinner. Definitely a legend with the Stevie Wonder party. There's also another party I feel like he does. Besides Prince, maybe is it he does?
I think it's my Prince versus Michael Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I mean, those are some New York City parties, man. Spinner is definitely another one that's been in the game. A legend in his own right. But more importantly, when you bring him up, it made me just think of something. DJ, man. There's nothing without a DJ. And I know he was he suffered some medical issues. He had
an appendicitis.
Yeah,
I think was I don't know if it burst or what happened, or he had an infection. But yeah, he was hospitalized for a minute.
And I know there was a lot of support for him.
Yeah.
And what he was going through, and it made me realize when I seen the post about him, how DJs, it's like. They give people a chance to forget about their problems. You give people a chance to forget about their bills, to think about it for a moment, right? And you guys don't have a pension. You're not with a fucking local union 1080. There's no shop steward.
Not yet.
You know what I mean? I one day wish that would be true for DJs. Honestly.
Yeah, sure.
I one day wish somebody would have did that to have a union because, and the reason why I asked you that for is. Have you, all these years, I mean, you're, what is it, 30? Talk to me about how many years in the game.
Oh, I started DJing professionally in, I think, 89.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and of course, but let me put a little asterisk on that. To say I was DJing professionally in 89, that meant I was getting, like $200 to play for 6 hours at a club. Very happy to do so, mind you. To have the opportunity to actually DJ in a nightclub when you're like 19 years old in New York City, when not everybody was a DJ, that was crazy.
Well, have you, in your later age of DJing and just also, besides being a DJ, just being a creative, have you thought about ways to set up for your life after, because there is no 401k for you, there's no pension, there's no...
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to... I mean, I do other things other than DJ,
sure.
And the beautiful thing about that is, it has allowed me to be more selective about the DJ gigs that I take. it's not my only source of income, so I don't have to just say yes to everything. I kind of I want to do gigs that mean something to me, like the party I do with Clark Kent, D Nice, Rich Medina, and Tony Touch, called The Originals. We got a monthly party here, and we've been going out of town with that as well. And that's just fun. We happen to make money doing it, but it's just a great time with four guys
I've been
that
to
I've
a
known,
couple,
known since way back in the day. Yeah, but I mean, I own real estate. I've been involved in publishing.
Oh, you have your own book too, right?
That came out with a book. That's right.
You and Mr. What was his name? Arbus?
Evan.
Evan. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Evan, man. Up North Trips.
You're like, I like Evan. Let me qualify that.
I do like him.
Yeah, Evan's a great dude.
Yeah. What is that about? The book.
Oh well, we're jumping around. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Where were you? My bad.
Yeah, no, I was just saying. It's I think we live in a time when where it is important to diversify. It's important to get your hands on different things, just because you can't rely on one source of income. I mean, I never have. I used to work for record labels. I used to do freelance A&R, do some production. So I've always sort of done a bunch of different things. I've done music supervision for movies. So
more than a DJ.
Well, the DJing has been the constant.
For sure.
I've always DJ'd, and I think when I was like 30 years old, I was thinking, okay, I've got to sort of figure out how I'm gonna transition into something else, not really imagining that I would be a 40-year-old DJ. But then I became 40, and I was thinking like, wow, I'm having more fun DJing now than I ever had in my life. So and of course DJing it's a relatively new phenomenon, right? I mean, the first time club DJs even did their thing was in the 70s, mixing records. So it's within our lifetime that the idea of a DJ, the concept of a DJ, has even existed. So there were no people, no DJs ahead of us sort of writing the rules, right? Like who are the oldest DJs? They're still alive. Like the first DJs are still alive. So who's to say that you can't be a 50-year-old, 60-year-old DJ, 7-year-old? I mean, if you have an audience and a point of view and you do your thing, like there's nothing to say that you shouldn't be doing that.
Sure, for a long time. You go by the name of Stretch Armstrong. Where did that even come from? Is that from the figure?
Yeah, it's from like it's a doll, and I guess it was some kind of a comic book figure as well. Well, for me, when I got on the radio, I didn't have a DJ name. I was just Adrian.
You had none.
I was just Adrian B. For a minute, they called me Skinny Bones because I was even thinner then than I am now. And, I felt like I needed a radio name. And some friends were calling me Stretch, and then I added the Armstrong because, it was sort of an ode to that tradition of hip-hop DJs that have taken on names of superhero characters and comic book characters like Clark Kent, like Plastic Man, like Richie Rich, etc.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up on 96 in Madison.
So it's from the city, New York City. Mom and dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, my mom's from Poland, actually.
Okay. But no, I'm saying you grew up with mom and dad.
Yeah.
And what did mom do?
My mom was a social worker, but mostly, I don't think she would ever consider herself a housewife because she'd help my father somewhat. My parents traveled a lot.
Really?
So I felt like she was always organizing trips.
On vacation? Why?
Vacations, yes, but they were more so sort of leaning towards sort of cultural discoveries, like going to Papua New Guinea and meeting people in tribes that have like never seen white people before.
Really?
That kind of thing. Yeah.
That's crazy. What did Pop do?
Pop's still alive. He's an art dealer.
Oh, nice.
When I was born, he was an artist, a painter, trying to paint, and then eventually became an art dealer, which was what he's been for the last 40 years.
You know, you obviously had, you know, even you mentioned that you had a bunch of different jobs throughout your life. When you wanted to become a DJ, did mom and pops like, "Yo, what the fuck you doing?"
No. I mean, my parents have always been very open-minded. There's been a sort of a long legacy of people in the arts in my family, from classical music, orchestra conductors, to jazz pianists and producers, to photographers, to composers. A lot of art in my family. So it's in my blood, it's in my DNA.
Sure.
I was going to Columbia here in the city, and after being at Columbia for about 2 years, I really just wanted to pursue music. And my father told me, he said, you don't have to go to school, but you got to get a job. So I got a job working for Craig Kalman at Big Beat Records. Craig's the chairman of Atlantic now. When he had an independent record label, I worked for him. And that kind of allowed me to be downtown and go to nightclubs, as I could justify going to nightclubs because it was my job working at a record label. Spent a lot of time in record stores, downtown records, downstairs records, rock and soul back in, 89, 90, 91, 92.
What's the
93, 94, 95.
5, 96, 97. What's the vinyl collection looking like? You still got a big vinyl collection?
Yeah, I've reduced it quite a bit, but I've got my records. They were in storage for about 10 years, but I moved to Brooklyn to get more space, and they're out on their shelves, and these are the shelves I've had since like 90, 94.
It's crazy.
So, yeah.
Were you an only kid, or you had brothers and sisters?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
And close with her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's in music too?
No. She's just raising a gang of kids.
You know, Stretch, for 30, almost 30 years, at least 30 years, you've been DJing. That never stopped. Now, you did multiple other things, but that never stopped. You know, is your body function like fuck the fuck up? Like, honestly, meaning like
my body function.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is like
Premium Pete, PH, MD, not
yeah.
PhD.
PhD, yeah,
MD.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I mean is your body, from working at night like that. Like,
I mean, the only abuse that my body has really taken is my ears.
That's true. I never think of that.
My hearing has suffered a little bit, but I try to protect my ears now so they don't get worse. The invention of laptop DJing, Serato with turntables, was a game changer for me, because carrying crates of records really was hurting my spine. And, even if I had people helping me, I just wasn't that dude that's not going to carry records while my boys are.
Sure.
That's lame, right? But I think I had a curvature in my spine at one point, which I got corrected. But yeah, no, I'm healthy. I'm thin. I eat well. I exercise.
Do you so you sleep during the day a lot, or
No, I don't DJ every night.
Okay.
This is middle-aged man life. I DJ,
middle-aged Stretch
once or twice a week. Sometimes once a week.
Okay.
Sometimes none during a week. It just depends on what's offered and what's worthwhile and what's paying me what.
That you want.
What I want, yeah.
You spoke about being in New York City. You said, when you just came up and, you were DJing a bunch. I mean, I remember you saying like 5-6 nights a week, easy,
Yeah, at one point in the 90s, I think it was like 94, 95, I looked at my calendar and I had DJ'd 19 nights in a row.
Fuck.
And you're talking, this internet age when it's all about, 5 DJs on a bill all playing for 45 minutes. Back then it was you were the DJ.
Yeah, for the whole
you
fucking
got
night.
there was no opener, there was no closer. You got to the club at 10 and you finished at 4:35.
That's insane.
Playing vinyl.
You even think about like when we speak.
People they're not built for that.
No,
These the new digital DJs, it's a different breed.
Yeah.
Different breed of DJ.
Yeah. Is there, when you were growing up, was there mentors that you had, or even people that you were inspired by as far as DJs?
I mean, of course. I mean, you wouldn't become a DJ if you weren't.
Sure.
I mean, the first DJs that really, really blew my mind. I went to UVA for 1 year before I went to Columbia. And there was a DJ on campus named Spinbad. Not the Spinbad that's
I know
active
what you're
now.
talking about, yeah.
There's a black brother named Spinbad, and he did all the black fraternity parties at UVA. And I would go to all those parties just because a lot of my friends were, Charlottesville is where UVA was. That's obviously, a town whose reputation has been mired by the events that happened last year with these neo-fascists and neo-Nazis and
Tiki.
Exactly, the Tiki Bros.
Yeah.
So it was interesting when that popped off because I left UVA largely because I felt like the segregation there was just really something that I didn't want to be a part of. I had my white friends and I had my black friends, and they were two different worlds. But when I hung out with my black friends on weekends, I'd go to the frat parties with them, the service fraternity parties, the black fraternities. And Spinbad was the DJ at all those parties, and he just got so busy. He was a really talented dude. I don't know if he really tried to pursue DJing beyond that. I don't know what happened to him. But I gather he's not active since he probably would have been upset with my friend Spinbad taking his name.
Yeah. There would have been.
Don't get me wrong. The Spinbad that's active now, my friend Spinbad, is one of the illest to have ever done it. And another DJ that's really influential for me from that time when I was in Virginia was Frank Ski. He would come down and do. He wouldn't do the parties at frat parties. He would. I mean, they'd have to rent out like big like rec halls for him because so many people would come out to see him. He would just get busy. I think he's still on the radio in DC or Baltimore. I'm not really sure. But he's Frank Ski originally is a club DJ that played all genres and got busy. Then coming back to New York, I mean, even actually before I went to UVA, I was already going to clubs downtown. So guys like Frankie Inglesi and Jules, who were really the like the OG downtown DJs.
Sure.
DJ Basil, and of course my big bro and someone who I look up to probably more than anybody as a source of knowledge, as a DJ, and as a friend is Clark Kent.
I mean, he is a walking almanac.
Yeah, he's,
if that makes sense. I mean, and you know what I like. You know what I love about it. I mean, he's passionate. He's super passionate. I mean, there's a lot of people who are passionate, but so I feel like there's a lot of things that he's very, very passionate about. And if you get to know him, and you know this, tremendous heart.
Yeah. He's a great man. It really is, and I feel lucky that we've actually gotten closer as we've gotten older. But I met Clark in I think '89. I was DJing at Mars, and he was it '89? Yeah, it was. I started DJing professionally. I didn't know any other DJs because I'm a white kid from the Upper East Side. There were no DJs there to meet, so I met Clark at Mars. He actually approached me and asked me who I was. I think he'd seen me around, probably noticed that I was hawking him pretty hard when he was DJing. Like I was that dude, trying to see what he was playing, right? The whole
sure.
Trying to read the records. You got to have your head spinning with the vinyl so you could actually catch it. And then of course as I would go out more, Kid Capri, once he started DJing downtown at the building, I was completely in awe of what that man was able to do with a crowd and how the destruction that he would unleash on 2,000 people.
He's nasty.
Just
Kid Capri.
Total control.
It's crazy too because I feel like
Little Louis Vega.
Yep. Yeah. Man.
Tony Humphries. Yeah.
What about today? Is there? I know it's a different game, and I know it's. I I guess I would, have to say it felt more. And correct me if you feel wrong, but this is my opinion. It felt more underground at that time. It felt, now, you see the masses embrace it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, DJ culture was underground culture. It's mainstream culture to a degree, where to the degree that the average person that's into music is, they like DJs. They like clubs. I mean, club culture is mainstream culture right now. You go to the typical club in New York City or Vegas and whatever, and you're going to hear popular music, and a lot of people that maybe in the 70s or 80s would have been going to see bands are now going to clubs to see very popular DJs. But the really real and the guys doing progressive cutting edge stuff, they remain underground.
Yeah,
it's still underground. So it's almost like there are two worlds. There's like the mainstream DJ culture world, and then there's the underground club world, which still exists. And I guess there is a little bit of give and take between the underground and the mainstream. Some guys graduate from the underground. Some guys want to stay in the underground.
Sure. Are there some younger DJs that you like? That have been around, obviously younger than you.
Yeah, there are. I'm not always so good at recalling names, but I love my man DJ MoMA and kind of what he represents and the scene that he has helped grow. Eli Escobar is not young. He's young to me because he came up kind of, through the show, lived on Bobbito's block. But he's somebody that has really, I just really like where he's gone over the last 5+ years. He's been recognized finally as a DJ artist, which is great to see because he's just ridiculously talented. So as a producer and a DJ, so I've got to talk about him because that's like, kind of like he's a peer, but also kind of like a little brother. So I'm really happy for what he's been able to achieve. Yeah, there's always going to be new younger dudes that are doing great stuff, and being recognized for the merits of their work.
Yeah, I feel like we are in a world where there are some people who really respect the people before them, and then there's some people who just do their own thing. But from your when you sit back and think, has it been all love for you from even younger DJs, younger people?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean
that's special.
I mean the great thing about social media, and there's plenty that's bad about social media.
Yep.
But it just allows for connection, and it also allows people to. I mean, the internet allows people to do research and to learn about things that would have been more challenging to learn about, right? I mean, like when I came up in the early 90s, I couldn't go on YouTube and look at like Kid Capri DJing in the 80s or Clark DJing in the 80s or even taking it further back to see like the real forefathers like Flash and DJ Hollywood. Like there was no such thing as seeing those guys and what they were doing. Whereas now, even with what we did, there's a lot of YouTube audio of what we were doing on the radio. Not so much in the clubs, but I mean, my point is, it's a young person can learn a whole freaking lot from the internet now.
Sure.
And
Faster.
And for those that have that curiosity, it's all there. And now, some don't have that curiosity, and that's fine too. You can exist in a vacuum and in your own bubble and be incredibly creative and have your own vision. Nothing wrong with that.
Before we went on air, I was talking to you about, when you and Bob had the radio show. I'm surprised that you guys never had.
Actually, we actually opened with that, but sorry.
We did open. No,
well, we talked about the radio earlier.
No, but meaning about. I'm surprised. I think this was off air. Correct.
I feel like we're doing a lot of rehash stuff here. That well, you and I never kicked it. Yeah. So, but and for those that know all this history, you can fast forward.
No. But I mean, I'm surprised nobody was like, having you headline shows?
Because that industry didn't exist back then. You know, I feel like when all right, so back in the 80s and 90s, right, like hip hop had a really bad reputation in New York City in terms of concerts and parties, right? Like concerts and parties were getting disrupted by violence. They were getting shut down. They were getting banned, right? It was like, you want to do a hip hop party here? No, I don't think so. Like it took a lot of convincing. That's why Jessica's party,
Rosenblum.
Jessica and Chris Lighty and Flex, their run at the Tunnel, Mecca on Sundays was so remarkable because of the longevity, but it also took club owner Peter Gation, who really believed in the party, believed in the importance of that party to New York City, to the culture, to the scene, and he really, he backed it up. It was like, okay, so there have been issues with violence at hip hop clubs, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hire 200 security guards. They just overwhelm the party with security and make it safe, and that's what they did. They did what they had to do to make it happen. And a lot of other clubs, weren't willing to do that.
Sure.
They would just rather close their doors to hip hop. It wasn't until I would say probably post. Sure, there were things that like there were parties at Tramps that where you saw the first seeds of a successful sort of concert industry around hip hop that really came into prominence in the 2000s. But by then, Bob and I weren't doing a radio show together, and around that time, like Bob and I, in different ways, we were more into DJing and whatnot, and it was less about sort of what we had represented in the 90s. We were kind of both reinventing ourselves in different ways.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of, when I stopped doing Hot 97 in 2001, I kind of, in some ways, I disappeared for a while. People that had been following me from the radio didn't know what happened. And, those were the early days of social media with MySpace and whatnot. But if you checked my MySpace page after I stopped doing Hot 97, you really wouldn't know what I was doing or where I was. I kind of really wanted to just push a big reset button and kind of have some time to just sort of figure out what I wanted to do. So I kind of disappeared for a minute. But I was still DJing in clubs. So if you were downtown in New York City or, in some of the clubs that I would get booked at in Japan and Europe, you would still know who I was. But just because of the nature of radio in New York City, where you've got this massive platform through Hot 97, I would have to think that the majority of the people that knew me then from the radio. So when the radio show went away, they didn't know what I was doing.
Makes sense. Listen, you know what? Let's take a quick break. Sitting here with the one and only DJ Stretch Armstrong, going down the journey. We're rehashing. We're starting from the beginning. Listen, sometimes you bounce around.
Rehash Browns.
But sometimes you bounce around, Stretch, but the journey gets told, man. The journey's inspiring.
All right.
Internet, don't go nowhere. I'll be right back.
It's your boy, Brooklyn's finest, New York Giant, God's favorite DJ, Clark Kent. You are listening to the Premium Peach Show. Pay attention.
No, I'm just saying it's fucking crazy when you start thinking about life, man. Like,
You just asked me about my MySpace top 8.
Yeah. Fucking. Yeah, it just made me think, bro.
No,
right?
so to give you a sense, right? So 2001, I leave Hot 97.
Mm-hmm.
I think my top 8 on MySpace around 2002, 3, 4, it was like maybe even 2005. My years aren't good, but I know that when at MySpace's peak, my top 5 was like Ed Banger out of Paris,
Busy P.
right? Busy P.
Mm-hmm.
It was Fake Blood, who was a DJ that his hip hop bona fides are top notch, but then started making really incredible dance music in the 2000s as Fake Blood. So it's Fake Blood, Ed Banger, probably my man Omar Doom,
Carmen Electra.
the Mike B, who's a DJ in LA, and I can't remember anybody else. Damn, I don't have any screenshots of my
That would
of
be
my
classic.
top 5.
That would be classic, Stress.
Who would your top 5 be now?
It would be classic.
Top 5 now? Oh, I mean, it would be Clark Kent. I mean, be all the originals.
Originals,
So
D-Nice.
That's 4 right there. D-Nice,
Tony Touch,
Clark
Rich
Kent.
Medina.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible to do, right?
When you think about it, right? Obviously, I told you you're a game changer. And you think about what you both did, but also what you have done. When is the first time you met Bobbito?
I mean, this is all in our film, Stretch and Bobbito, Radio That Changed Lives. I'd been playing in nightclubs professionally for less than a year. This is 89, 90. My man Earl was some kind of employee at Def Jam, and Earl stayed in clubs. And Earl liked to drink. So Earl would constantly ask me for drink tickets, and we realized we could come to some sort of bartering situation. I'd give him drink tickets, and he'd give me records from Def Jam. So he said, come down to Def Jam this Friday. Actually, he's probably come down to Def Jam tomorrow because the club I was at was MK, and I used to do a party called Superfly on Thursdays. So it's a summer, and I'm walking downtown. I lived on 14th Street and 2nd Avenue. I lived at Moby on 14th Street.
The Moby.
The Moby. Moby and I were
Really?
roommates. Yeah, because he had moved to New York City from Connecticut and was DJing at Mars, and we were both playing at Mars. And he asked me, he's like, "Yeah, I need a roommate. You want to?" I was like, "Yeah, I need a new place. Let's do it." So I'm walking down from 14th Street and 2nd Avenue down to Elizabeth Street, where the Def Jam and Rush offices were, and I bump into my homegirl Nadia. She's a young British woman who worked at Nell's, another ridiculously legendary spot.
Yep.
And she asked me what I was doing. I said, "Oh, I'm going down to Def Jam." She said, "Oh, you're going to Def Jam? Oh, I have the biggest crush on Robert Garcia, a.k.a. Bobbito," right? I was like, "Oh, really? Okay. Good to know. I don't really care about who your crushes are,
sure,
but
sure.
at least I know the name
What the hell are you telling me?
of someone at Def Jam." Maybe she wanted me to put in a good word, but I didn't know this Robert Garcia. So I walked to Def Jam, and it was crazy because, this is 1990, right? So now it's not 80s Def Jam, but Def Jam still means a lot in 1990, right? Public Enemy is still happening, right? It's like you got, I guess Nice and Smooth and EPMD were about to come out on Def Jam, but all the artists that meant something in the 80s were still meant something, right? Slick Rick, Public Enemy, Beastie Boys weren't there anymore. Help me out here.
LL.
How could I not say LL? Exactly.
Redman, no?
Redman was about to happen. But yeah, that's the core. PELL. That's really and Slick Rick. Third base.
Get the gas face.
I know the other artists and people can be like, this guy's a DJ. How come he's not spitting off the top of his head like all the artists on Def Jam? So it's a little confusing because Rush Associated Labels is about to happen, which of course is Onyx, Nice and Smooth.
Yep.
I think EPMD were on. It's confusing. Some records came out on Def Jam. Some EPMD records had a Def Jam logo. Some had a. Did some have a RAO logo? I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. Anyway, I'm all over the place here. I'm walking down to Def Jam, and I get there, and like I said, Def Jam is still like they're like the New York Yankees of hip hop, right? So I walk in, and oddly, the front door is open. There's no receptionist. I walk by the reception area. I'm looking into some offices, and I'm kind of taken aback by how little activity there is at Def Jam, which you would think would be just bustling with people, doing the things that, you know, a really poppin' record label would have to do. And it's gotten to the point where, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, there's nobody here. Now, maybe it was because it was a Friday and being a part of a record label meant going to nightclubs. So maybe everybody was out the night before. I don't know. But I stick my head in the conference room, and there's a Puerto Rican brother, a Latino brother. I assumed he's Puerto Rican because this is New York City, and maybe I was. Why wouldn't he be Dominican? Well, he looked Puerto Rican to me at the time,
Sure.
for whatever that means. And I knew Earl wasn't there, so I was like, oh, I was asked to say hi to this guy, Robert Garcia. So I asked this guy, hey, is there a Robert Garcia here? And he said, that's me. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm friends with Nadia from Nels and whatnot. And of course, he recognized me from DJing in Mars and MK. So he's like, oh, yo, you're the DJ, right? Now, I wasn't Stretch yet because I wasn't on the radio yet. But Bob and I met. I introduced myself. And we just started talking that day. And I think that day we ended up hanging out for a few hours. We took a walk. Of course, we went to Ben and Jerry's where there was these two girls, one that I was dating, and they were both really fine. And later, Bob confessed that the reason why he wanted to keep hanging out with me was because
these girls.
I knew these really good-looking girls. But we hung out the next day, and then within a few weeks, I think we decided to be roommates. And
Really?
And Bob, along with Nick Quested, who became a hot hip hop video director in the '90s and the executive producer of our documentary. Now he's a film producer. The three of us lived together in 1990, and within that time frame, by virtue of me being a very persistent Columbia University student, I got a shot at being on the radio there, and I asked Bob to do the show with me. But that show popped off within 4 months of us being friends. It just kind of all came together, living together, doing a radio show together, and becoming really good friends.
But how did you even get the artists to come up? Just because you had a radio show doesn't mean that you would
right, especially a show that's at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, there was like I said, you had people in record labels going out a lot, so there was a synergy between nightclubs and record labels. Also, all the record labels were downtown, the clubs were downtown, the DJs were downtown. So there was this kind of natural communication and between nightclub personalities and a lot of the people that went to clubs were aspiring artists. So as a club DJ, I would meet artists. I'd see the Jungle Brothers in the club. I'd see Ultramagnetic in the club. I'd see other DJs in the club. And other DJs that may have been older, were from neighborhoods where artists came from, right? I mean, Grandmaster Kaz from Cold Crush,
sure,
and KG used to get on the mic at parties that I would do early. So, and they knew everybody. So, so that was one element. Now the other thing was that Bob worked at Def Jam, and Bob, as a Def Jam employee, well, what did he do? He was in charge of mix show and club promotions. So Bob knew radio DJs from across the country and would promote our show to those shows. And so really quickly on, he would also promote our show to other promoters at record labels. So that got our show known at other labels. And, really early on, we had incredible guests. I mean, the first show we had the Jungle Brothers and La T. That was our first show. Second show we had Third Bass and Two Kings in a Cypher. Two Kings in a Cypher are who? That's D-Dot.
Yeah, the mad rapper.
D-Dot Angeletti, as well as...
The legendary. We had D-Dot on.
Yeah. Again, my memory is just terrible, but who's the other hitman that was in Two Kings in a Cypher?
Oh, my God.
Amin Ra.
Yeah, okay.
So we hit the ground running. We had great guests from day one, but that was largely because Bob was in the industry, and that was because I was in nightclubs.
What about was it like a rule that people had to spit, or they just wanted to spit?
No,
there was some legendary shit on
yeah,
there.
it wasn't a rule, but like we weren't, early on we would do interviews with people, but like within a few weeks we realized like interviewing people is just so boring. Like, I mean, interviewing rappers is boring because rappers back then, it's like rappers were the best thing a rapper would do is rap.
Sure.
And not really give great interviews. Now, people have gotten smarter and are more media savvy, but back then, you don't want to hear a rap being like, yo, you know what I'm saying, know what I'm saying, know what I'm saying, know what I'm saying, know what I'm saying. No, we want to hear you spit. So we quickly threw away the whole interview blueprint. Yeah, we were also trying to, differentiate our show from other shows, especially we felt if someone was going to give us their time and stay up from 1 to 5 in the morning, we needed to give them a unique experience. And interviewing a rapper was just not going to cut it. It was getting them to give us a performance that was unique and exciting, keep the listeners awake, and let them, walk to school or, go to work the next day with a recording that, of something that didn't happen anywhere else.
Now, Big L came out there, right?
At least 5 or 6 times.
And how was that, man?
Did
you realize like
Big L was like, he was like he was our station was in Harlem. He was like the mayor of Harlem, so L could come through any time, and
spit forever
would
too.
Kill it every time he did. He didn't have to call; he could just show up. He was the one artist. Actually, there are a few artists that didn't need to be invited or didn't need to be on the guest list. He was one of them. He brought Jay-Z up the first time.
Really? Yeah.
First time Jay-Z was on the radio was on our show, and it was really because L brought him up.
Really?
Yeah.
And he spit too? He
did. Yeah.
Did you see like at that time? Some people could say like, you know what, I see. This guy got something. Did you see that?
Well, it's funny. No? It's funny. First of all, the Big L Jay-Z, famous freestyle, which is just a part of hip hop lore at this point. It wasn't a battle. People call it a battle, and I think there's this trend where people want to depict it as a battle, and then say that they're riding for L, as if that would give them more authenticity as someone that it seems to be down with the underground. At the time, I feel like L's lyrics were easier to digest. They were a little simpler than what Jay was doing. And that's not to diminish what L was doing at all, because I think L, his style and his delivery, his pronunciation, everything, his cadences, his rhythm was just ridiculous. And I think at the time probably appealed to more people than what Jay was doing, which was he was doing a lot of that triplet stuff and trying to be a little bit fancier. Maybe it's because back then I wasn't as focused on lyrics as I was beats and flow. But years later, even like when we were doing the documentary, like listening to what Jay was doing back then, like I was like, I really kind of kicked myself thinking like my man, like you really slept on what Jay was doing back then. It went over my head back then. And if you listen to what he did back then now, compare it to what the finest lyricists out now are doing, and it's as good as what anybody's doing. He killed it. And I think I'm only saying that because everyone would always say L got him. And I don't think anybody got anybody. I just think that Jay deserves his props as a lyricist back then, killing it.
It's amazing how you we met Bob, and then we talk about the radio show, and that your friend's this goddamn long. That's honestly special to see.
We're family.
Yeah,
Bob
friends become family.
Yeah.
Listen, Stretch, you traveled the fucking world for DJing. doing what you love. Think about it. You must have you went on those turntables as a young kid. I'm sure you didn't really know what the fuck you were doing in the beginning, trying to learn how to DJ.
Yeah, no, I mean, I listen. I'm relatively smart, and I was able to figure it out when there was no one to mentor me. I had to sort of mentor myself and just go out and study DJs and listen to the radio and study DJs. But yeah, I always sort of knew where I fit in. I knew what I was capable of doing. That's why you never saw me get on turntables and start cutting like a maniac, because we've seen those kids do that and play themselves. Like, no, you're not ready for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky as hell. I've made a living doing different things, but fundamentally by playing music I love.
Sure. Which is
around the world.
Sure. You know, you were saying, I think this is before we started. You were saying you went to Japan, 28 times, you said?
I've been to Japan 28 times. That's right.
God,
Okay.
fuck, where else? Where you visited?
I mean, I've been to Australia. I've been all over Europe. I haven't been to Eastern Europe that much.
Yeah, how many passports have you had throughout this time? A lot of stamps?
A lot of stamps.
Stamps?
Been, Canada, South America, Central America. I haven't been around Africa that much. I've only been to places in Northern Africa, but still haven't been to South Africa. I still haven't been to South America other than what is it? Colombia. Yeah. Some places I want to go. Book me. I haven't been to Brazil.
Internet.
What's up?
Book that, man. You know, you think about it, when hip hop is a puzzle, and you're definitely a piece of the puzzle. And growing up, it's like funny because it's like, even though we don't know each other that long, I could just tell the passion, the purity of how you are. Like you're not somebody ever faking the funk. Especially being white and loving hip hop. When you were young, did anybody try to call you like a wigger or
No, because I've never acted like a wigger.
Yeah. Or try to tell you like you were acting. I say that sometimes because even being Italian, I mean, I'm white, but even being Italian, I remember like people, I always say this, and I'll say this with you when I went to my barber, I was like, yo, put 3 cuts on my eyebrow. Trying
to wild out?
Yeah, and you know what he told me? And you know what the barber told me?
What?
What are you trying to be, black?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm trying to be like Kane. and I think about how stupid some, like people around you when you grew up, were thinking. That's why I asked that.
Yeah, I mean, I never grew up. I didn't grow up in an environment where I would get that, because I grew up on the edge of Spanish Harlem. I went to school with black kids, Latino kids, Asian kids,
sure, it was cultural.
Filipino kids. So the idea of trying to be something that you weren't just wasn't something that I was even aware that people did until I got older.
Sure.
I would say as an adult, a young adult into hip hop, like during my tenure in the radio, I think once it got back to me that another producer who I'm friends with to this day, he never knew that that I knew he said this about me, but when he was younger and maybe jealous of my role in the radio, in sort of as a gatekeeper, as someone who sort of had a hand in guiding culture, he dismissed me as a rich white kid from the Upper East Side. So that's what that was the criticism I heard. It wasn't. I mean, and fine. Even though I wasn't a rich kid, look, comparatively, like, yeah, I grew up privileged. I went to private school, went on vacations. That's rich. Even if
sure,
my
sure.
dad's not banking millions of dollars,
sure.
That's still rich. So I'll take that. But I know just for myself that you can't diminish the hours I put in, the work I put in, the authenticity that
sure.
that I adhered to in terms of championing music that resonated with me, that I felt was important. That's never changed, and that's never been that's never been disputed by anybody, at least not to my face.
Yeah.
And in terms of I think I've addressed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has your hair been gray, Stretch? I feel like it's been gray for like. When did it get gray? When you were like fucking 30 years old?
I started seeing gray hairs popping out probably when I was like 25, 26. Yep. Started in the 90s.
You know, as we wind this episode down, man, I mean, your journey is definitely special, man, and I'm good that you're here, you know, going over the journey. But one thing I never understood is, you get these EDM DJs, and you got like Tiesto and the guy Marshmello, and you keep on going on Zed, and whatever. You can keep on going on, and some of these guys, make $100 million, $200 million a year. 23 million, 58 million. Why is that I mean, I just don't understand. I'm asking. It's like, why isn't hip hop like that? Why isn't, house music? Well, house music is a little, on the curve, or you would say, not an EDM, but, it's some similarities.
Well, okay. So, mainstream hip hop artists who, in my opinion, have very little to do with hip hop, but it's called hip hop. They're making that kind of money, right? And EDM is the dance music equivalent of that. It's just that the performers are DJs, right? It'd be as if you made a trap record, an electronic trap record, that was really popular, crossed over, had radio hits, and you had a bunch of rappers on it, but you went out there and performed it without the rappers. You got the money. You were the one that showed up to the festival, and you had a light show and flames coming out of the stage. But and there have been some people that have tried to do that, but that's really only worked in the dance music realm. But you've got these huge records that have singers on them, but at the festivals and the big clubs, the singer's not showing up. It's the DJ that's showing up, which is kind of interesting. They've been able to keep the money in the DJ's pockets. But it's just a different model, but I think to say that there's no equivalent in hip hop, I think, maybe the big hip hop, contemporary hip hop acts like Migos and I can't even tell you what little this and little that. They're probably making a lot of money doing shows. I'd imagine they're doing big shows and getting a lot of money, and I don't know if they're getting less than the EDM shows are getting. I don't know. I'm talking about this like I'm an expert in it anyway.
That's all good. It's just I'm not your opinion.
I'm not, but it would be cool to see more hip hop DJs, getting booked on those big stages and making money.
Sure, why not even crossing over?
I mean, you put a Kid Capri or a Premier on the main stage, with an impressive light show, and they're gonna kill it.
That would be sick. I like to see more of that. It's funny when you sit and you think about your journey, and all you've been. You traveled the world. You're a kid from New York City, traveled the world, kind of basically have done what you love for 30 plus years. Is there anything else like left that you have? Like, meaning, like, is there?
Well,
is there more on the bucket list?
I don't know. I mean, DJing has been this constant, but I've done things that I didn't expect I'd be doing, and you really don't know what's next. I just know that I've been blessed to have a platform and to have been able to kind of pick and choose what I want to do. And I think the opportunity to do anything that I want to do is there, as long as it's something that that excites me, because I've only been able to do things that are interesting and that kind of feed my passion. I've never been able to fake it and do something that I wasn't into. And at times have, experienced a little bit of, career suicide. I've done that a few times. Oh, sure. Yeah. You haven't noticed. You haven't noticed. But if you want to just take it back to the podcast that Bobbito and I are doing on NPR, which is called What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito.
Make sure you check it out.
We're really enjoying our...
Who's season 2?
Thus far, we've had Erykah Badu, Lenny Kravitz, and Rakim.
God damn.
Last week, we had someone who you'd maybe consider more of a discovery, because we want to, similar to how in the 90s we introduced the world to a bunch of MCs that they had never heard of. We felt it was important to have our podcast peppered with personalities that you might know, but you might not know. So
Sure.
The last guest we had is a man named Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez. He's a graphic novel author, activist, and I wouldn't even do justice talking about what he shared with us. But
Internet's got to check that episode out.
Exactly. But, Bob and I, we envisioned, being with NPR, for the next 20 years and kind of
Really?
making that be kind of like the sort of the anchor to our careers, because it's just really exciting. You are an interviewer, you talk to people, this is what you do, right? And you were telling me earlier how, it's not just about hip hop, it's about entrepreneurs and athletes and whatnot. And that's really what our show is about. It's about talking to people you might know, talking to people you should know, but more than anything else, eliciting stories and narratives that you've never heard before.
Sure.
And I think for the hip hop core, listen to our Rakim interview, because we got an interview from him that's unlike anything you've ever heard from Rakim. I promise.
Make sure you put it on your to-do list. I love that you and Bob are back at it, and you guys contributed so much, and it's important to continue to be celebrated, but more importantly, it's even greater to be continue to do what you're doing. Like you think about it, some people say, oh, they did. We have a short span in hip hop. Where people are like, oh, that was great what they did, and they don't want to remember them.
Right. Sure. Well, that's why we get. Bob and I get thanked daily for everything we've done for the culture, and it's a well-intended sentiment. I would say we didn't do it for the culture, we did it for fun.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
But no, listen. We having integrity has meant the world to me and Bob. It's meant more than a check. But the other word that I don't like is it's not that I don't like it, because again, I appreciate the sentiment, but the word legend.
We started off.
We get that a lot. I know we get that a lot, and I don't know if we are legends. I'm not sure. I don't think we're old enough to be legends yet. I think that's something that history will decide. But that's why we wanted to tell our story through
the documentary.
Through a documentary,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, first off, Stretch, let me tell you this, okay? let me fucking tell you this. Again, hip hop is a puzzle, and when it's all said and done, and you're not here no more, there's a piece of a puzzle with Stretch Armstrong on it.
Yeah. Well, that, and I would dispute that. That's.
Yeah.
I just I know
what you're saying.
And gone, yeah,
I know.
call me a legend.
I know what you're saying.
Then, but it's also because we got work to do, right? We're still doing
out
stuff.
Here. You're still out.
We're
here.
active.
Still DJing.
We're active. I'm telling you, you young kids.
Stretch, I love your personality, man. Somebody's listening right now, a young DJ, somebody who maybe hung it up, was thinking of coming back. Somebody just trying to figure out to do what they love, but more important, like you just said, to have fucking fun. What's some words of advice you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to decide I think it's like anything in the creative realm. You have to know what your reason is for doing something. Now, there are a lot of legitimate reasons for wanting to DJ. It could be because you want to get girls. It could be because you want to make money. Could be because you want to be famous. Now, I'm not saying that those are all great reasons, but they're all legitimate reasons, and and those are some of the things that people actually try to become a DJ for. But if you don't know what you're trying to do it, if you don't know the reason why you're doing it, then you're going to get really confused, right? I got into DJing because I love music, and I think I've always had this sort of natural gift to find music that was great that people didn't know about, and I would get so excited about it that I wanted to share it with other people, and that was really fundamentally why. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to DJ. The other reason was because I felt like I knew how to tell stories through records. Now, if you're really good at making music and you feel like you want to DJ because you've convinced yourself that you know how to make records that are gonna resonate with people, that's a great reason to do it as well. But you got to know what you're trying to do, because then you understand what that journey is, and you're able to sort of identify what the roadblocks might be, what the challenges might be, and then you won't be surprised when there are those challenges, and then you'll be able to sort of figure out how to navigate them.
Did you ever have any kids, Stretch?
Did I ever have any? I used to have them, but I killed them. I got rid of them. I kind of miss them now. No,
I'm saying that
one of the kids was kind of cool. I don't know why I threw them away. No, I do not have any kids.
Is that a choice? I ask because some people don't want to have kids,
and they do. They don't want them, but they end up with them because they make bad choices.
Yeah.
No, I haven't had kids. Yes, that's been a choice. But I want kids. I do want kids, and I'm going to have kids. Yeah.
Little Stretch.
Maybe not kids. Maybe a kid.
Okay.
Maybe
Start
a kid.
One. Hey, fuck around. Guy like you will wait this long and fucking pop out twins.
Well, it's funny because twins are a part of my family.
Wow.
Yeah, my grandmother had 2 siblings. They were twins. I've got cousins that are twins, and my sister has 2 sets of twins. And this is without fertility. What do they call it? Medicine, fertility, drugs.
Yeah.
This is just natural twins. Maybe have one biological kid and one adopted kid. I think there are a lot of kids that need homes. Yeah. Boom, ba boom.
I like to see that. Listen, Stretch, on Instagram, Stretch Armstrong.
That's right.
Twitter, you still fucking with Twitter?
Stretch Army on Twitter.
Love that one. And you also, the book with Evan, it's...
the book is called No Sleep, NYC Nightlife Flyers, 1988 to 1999. And that is a visual history of nightclubbing in New York City as told through nightclub flyer artwork. There's also... it's also peppered with quotes from various people involved in the nightclub scene, from club owners to DJs to promoters to artists to cool people that were just out and about.
Plan to do any more books? Like, not particularly maybe the same, but
maybe do a Stretch and Bob book. Actually,
that would be dope.
That'd
be dope. I know you did a sock with stance. That was dope.
Yes, well, a book would be a little more ambitious than a sock.
No, but I like socks.
Well, yes, socks are necessary. Books take a lot of work, but I think there's going to be a Stretch and Bob book. I think people would be into that, and we have a lot of assets for the book. From just everything that we prepared for the film. A lot of that stuff that didn't make the film would be great for a book.
You as we end this episode, I got a last thing for you.
It's really hot in here.
I know. It got hot at the last fucking minute. I don't know what the fuck
Let's wrap
happened.
this up so I can get some
AC.
some ice.
Some AC. I leave this on Twitter, at Stretch Army. I love what you wrote, and we spoke about this before, but not on mic beforehand. where you wrote, "Sorry, Stretch, the brand decided to go with an influencer DJ instead." But you know what's dope about you?
What?
You're not like this like older guy that's like hating. You always just keep it like real.
Well, that was presented without comment.
Yeah.
That was the quote.
Yeah.
I was up for a great gig that I was looking forward to because it involved the other people that were booked, the people that were doing the food,
Sure.
the artists are people that I have a shared history with. So it just made sense that I was going to be a part of the night. And I was told that they were going with an influencer DJ, and they actually told me who the DJ was. So I looked the DJ up, and it was what I expected. It was someone that has a really good-looking Instagram account with like great photographs. The person happens to be very attractive and sexy. Sexier than I am.
Sexier than you.
But what didn't make sense to me was their following was substantially less than mine, like half the following I have. So I can't fault a brand for hiring a DJ personality because they have a big platform.
Sure.
And they're going to be able to amplify the message of whatever that is. If it's a clothing brand, they're going to get its publicity.
Sure.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
That's strategic. So you either hire a DJ that has, perhaps a big following, but that can kill the party. That makes sense, in terms of musical aesthetics. Or you hire someone that has a big following. This person had neither. They didn't have the social platform that I had, and maybe they get busy. I'd never heard of them before, but they're not ringing bells in,
sure, they're not making noise
in DJ communities and music communities, club communities. So it just irked me a bit, and I think that word influencer. They should just say popular.
Yeah.
Popular on Instagram. Because I don't know what they're influencing. I think they're echoing things. I don't think they're influencing or guiding or having sort of like an editorial perspective. They're just popular. If
they do make that union, you could be the shop steward. Let me tell you, internets, listen, the one and only, and I'm gonna say it because he don't like it, but I mean it in a professional way. The legendary Stretch Armstrong. Let me tell you something, man. What you and Bob did, I'm forever thankful. I remember how much me and Combat used to talk, rest in peace, about what you guys did was like a podcast before a podcast.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You kind of opened the doors for a lot of people to the format, the way it was just like you guys weren't like radio professionals, and you had a lot of knowledge, but it's kind of like what I see podcasting today, and so for people like you, open up doors for people like Combat has been around entertainment wise, but meaning
sure
to do.
Listen, one of the greatest satisfactions about the radio show that me and Bob did was, what the opportunities that we gave other people, whether it was directly through people that came through our doors or just the inspiration behind what we did. It's great to know.
Stretch, listen, thank you for
having me, man.
By. I hope to see twins in the on the Instagram soon.
Wow.
And put an influencer twin father.
Oh my gosh.
Internets, the legendary Stretch Armstrong. Peace, my brother.
Later, man. Thanks.
Internets, if you enjoyed that episode, I want you to email me at thepremiumpeachshow@gmail.com. Again, that email is thepremiumpeachshow@gmail.com. Let me know what you thought. And listen, all my advertisers out there, all my big businesses, my small businesses, whoever, a friend, a store, you want to advertise on The Premium Pete Show? Email me at thepremiumpeachshow@gmail.com and let's get working. Okay? Make sure you subscribe, rate, leave a comment on all streaming platforms of the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we'll see you next episode. Cheer.